Hi everyone, it is October 19th, it's Wednesday, and I am doing a continuation of Monday's video, which is a continuum of prior videos, as I mentioned in that one. So why I'm doing this is because, honestly, I recorded this, you're listening to this, I am recording this on Wednesday. However, I tried to record the video to completion on Monday, but if you've ever seen my other videos where all the birds are going through the air, they're flying around, chewing everything up, they're in here, they're on camera, the cat's in here, the dogs are in here, they're busting down the door, coming in here, I'm getting distracted because there's construction going on. It was a lot. And that actually goes with the theme of such a significant, important message, which is distraction. Do not allow distraction away from your journey. Do not allow distraction from your truth, right? And distraction can come in the form of, spiritually speaking, can come in the form of these temptations to value yourself from the unhealed truths of other people, to carry the weight of other unhealed people's systems of thinking. It can come through in the form of suppressing your feelings or suppressing yourself or your honest truth through bad habits, right? Habits that are just distracting you or taking you outside of yourself, right? It could also be engaging in other low vibrational activities, all of that, or even projecting your pain onto other people. And while there is that deep knowing in myself that God will never allow that pain to go unwasted, it will be transformed into deeper awareness and deeper understanding. It is absolutely untrue that this is something that we need to continue to do. When you know better, you do better, and that's how it should be. That's not to carry the pain and the and punish yourself severely for things that you've done in your past, or holding weight over what other people have done to you. It's acknowledging it, receiving that unconditional love for yourself, and that respect and honor to progress. You give that freedom to yourself and to others to progress on your journey. So that brings me into the subject of Adam and Eve and my belief about Adam and Eve and the story of Adam and Eve and who we are in our origins, and why that's so connected and important to my last video is because I have actually been thinking about Adam and Eve for so long now, and it's been so heavy on my mind since at least June, and revisiting, like, to make a video about that in detail, or a little bit of detail, revisit the subjects of demons and witchcraft and my ghost back months ago, because I thought it would be relevant in October. It would be like talking about things that are kind of in the Halloween realm, but then dispelling their secrets by telling you the light aspects of it. And so it was like, it's just interesting because they became relevant for me on a personal level. So that's nice. That ghost revisited me first. So, yeah, what happened? Okay, so let's talk about prior to Monday's video. I'm being drawn to explain my story, because then maybe you will see the parallels in your life, or this is a sign for you. Let's just talk about it. So Monday, I don't know what day prior to that, but I got ready to go for a walk. I put on a shirt with bald eagles on it, and I went for a walk. And I was like, you know, I don't know. I was just thinking about Adam and Eve. I was thinking about soulmates. I was just thinking about love. And I looked up and I saw the moon. And it was in the middle of the day, and I thought, that is so beautiful. I should take a picture of this moon with just like a clear sky. And I second guessed myself. I'm like, no, I don't need another picture of the moon. I could just enjoy it, and I'll just keep going on my walk. And I just got this like feeling like, no, like take a picture, like at least enjoy it some more, like really like look at it more. And I looked up, and there were two bald eagles flying across the sky, and they're not just flying, they're like swirling around, like kind of scoping out the area. And actually, I don't know if I told you guys this, but when I was first like deeply connecting to, like reconnecting, it was like, I don't know how to describe it really, because I've always been connected to the spiritual side. I mean, we all have, but you know, like being aware of this, but like this portion of my life where I was reawakening on an extraordinarily deep level, deeper than I've ever experienced, especially in adulthood. And I was telling my friend about like God and like my connections and like these parallels of like crazy things that were happening. A bald eagle flew by my window. I swear by it. I was screaming on the phone. I was like, I cannot believe this. I thought I was tripping out. I was like, there's a bald eagle right outside my window. It was so crazy. But anyway, so I saw these two bald eagles, and they're like swirling around, and I took a picture. My phone's not in here, but I did take a picture. And I was just so excited and so happy. And I was like thinking like, I hope they see my shirt, let them know I'm a fan. It was a very, very exciting moment for me. I don't even know why. I think because honestly, like obviously I love birds. I love bald eagles. And it felt relevant. It felt relevant, but then I was second guessing myself. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't really mean anything. It's not a big deal. And so I got home, and I was still thinking about it, and I'm like, what's this spiritual meeting? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna look. I'm not gonna look it up. Like, just don't like keep looking. It's like when you want to look for something, it's confirmative bias, right? And so I was letting my rational mind kick in. Long story short, I eventually looked it up a couple days later, and I saw that depending on how they're flying and all this, essentially it does have a lot to do with soulmates and like the loyalty there and all of that. So that was really cool. That was really exciting to see. And then Monday I recorded the video, right? So we're moving forward to a new day. So this is Monday. I recorded the video about demons and all of that, and the archangels that came through in that reading, which is actually at the bottom of the deck. I just looked down. Raziel. So, and there's also another one. I wonder, here's another. I'm just going to show you all the ones that I feel. They all kind of sound the same, right? But they're all very close, like whenever I was going through here. The other ones that came through were Gabriel, or came through as in like what I'm seeing on here is Gabriel, yeah, Michael, Jophiel. I don't know if they're probably all here, right? They're all here at all times. So that's that. I have this just in case I need a little scrap paper. So they feel very important to and relevant to this reading, right? And right now, and on Monday's video, I could feel their energy. I could feel them. It was so wild to feel like the separate energies of these archangels and then my guardian angels and then me. Like I could feel it separated, and my guardian angels trying to pull my awareness, like pull my energy. It's like pulling my energy to pull my awareness to it's like this feeling of like obedience, like obey by listening to your guardian angels, like I mean to us, to your guardian angels, to listen to the archangels, what they're trying to tell you, what they're not even, it didn't even feel like they were telling me, it's just like they're stating something. And it's like if you pay attention to them, if you look at them, then you're gonna see the information, or you're gonna kind of like absorb the information. And so I was like second guessing myself again, kind of, but not really. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just sit here. Where like after I record, I'm like, let me just sit here and just try and figure out what's going on here. And so my hot air balloons, by the way, oh, I don't know, you don't know this, but I have these hot air balloons that I have hanging in this room. And they're swaying right now. They're swaying. It's really pretty. I've actually never seen them sway, so that's very interesting. I'm sure there's like the air is on, so that's probably why they're swaying. But anyway, that goes into the whole theme of this, which is the distractions. Do not give in to the temptation to be distracted from your path and to your message that is being communicated to you. And so anyway, I was thinking, and it was bringing me back to Adam and Eve, and it was like the archangels, Adam and Eve, and the secrets. They're like pointing me. They're like, these are secrets, or part. It's like an inner secret, or like an inner truth, an inner sanctuary. And with the sanctuary, it has like the garden gates, right? Like these gates, like a secret garden. And so that is like your inner truth, your inner secret, which isn't truthfully a secret. It's like almost the way that they kind of show me is like if you see a labyrinth, right? And the labyrinth is a very meditative and honorable and trusting, honest place, right? Because it's not like a maze, a corn maze or anything where there's like things that could be popping out and scaring you, or it's like supposed to trick you, or you can get lost in it. There's one way in and one way out of a labyrinth. It's a very sacred place where you just walk and you meditate and you feel safe, right? And connected. And so the way that they're showing me is everyone's garden is open in the labyrinth. It's like every step you take is another person's secret garden. It's like having the gates that are open to your secret garden has an exit point on the other side of it. And so that is how it connects. And so it's like one way in and one way out of everybody's entirety of their secret gardens, which isn't secret at all, but it's like, I don't know, that's what they're showing me. So, and Jophiel is important here too. Jophiel is important here, and I feel like that's a separate message. I feel like that's a separate message that really ties into your garden. Maintaining your garden, maintaining your sacredness, maintaining the beauty of it, like really tilling the soil, and not just like don't over till it, right? Like when you think about soil is a living organism, and so in truth, when you over till it, you're destroying the organisms, you're destroying the life form that's within that soil. And so it's really cultivating and caring and paying attention to every single facility of your body, of your spirit, of your mind, of your your vicinity and cultivating it into the beautiful vision that you have of your life and what you desire and your needs, and also that interconnectedness of your garden to others. How does yours also, but it kind of reminds me of a victory garden, right? Like during the wars, and they had those gardens that you could trade and provide for other people so that the community is strong. It's like that. So back to my walk. Oh, I didn't even get to my walk yet. So I was like sitting here thinking about Adam and Eve, and the archangels are, they're not telling me, honestly, like I think I worded it that way just now, but the archangels were not telling me anything. It doesn't feel, they just exist. And it's like when you tap into the aura of an archangel, it's like you absorb that information. Like they're kind of like the library of whatever specific history. It's like but it's energy, right? Like we're all just energy. I'm just thinking about that. Sorry. But okay, before I just start going all over the place again. So basically, my guardian angels were trying to be like, listen, connect to their aura, connect that to what you're saying, and say that, right? Like record the video, say that. And I thought, I'll think about it. Then I'm gonna do some errands, then I'll go for a walk. And if I feel like I want to record, then I'll record. It's my life. I'm gonna do what I want. And so I did. I cleaned up, I put on some clothes, I went for a walk. Again, I had this intention of thinking about Adam and Eve, just like I did several days prior about the when I saw the bald eagles. And I was just getting this message, just like pulling energy, like kind of like, girl, you better, like, you said that you were gonna like do this, right? Like I say, and I've said this many times, I might have said this in that video that I posted, that I have made this strong prayer to myself, and not beyond just intentions, like setting an intention, but really following through, that I want God to work through me. I am here for my mission, irregardless of my egotistical desires. Obviously, I need to like survive in some way, but I really want to maintain that vision and do what's right. And so there was this feeling like, well, you're not doing it, you know, like it's like we're telling you, and yet you are wanting to do what you want to do. And while there's a good balance in that, because you want to be able to discern between like what's a real message, what's not, and whom that message is even coming through from. If you know, then why are you being difficult? Like, why are you being stubborn? Honestly, probably because that's just my personality. That's probably just it. But maybe like I just don't want to, I mean, I want to talk about it now, but it's like very personal to me in some ways, so I don't really want to talk about it. So that was probably the case like then, right? Like a couple days ago. So that was like a little piece of me that was being dishonest with myself, that I hadn't really fully been aware that I was being dishonest about. And so I was going on this walk, and I'm like thinking about it, and I'm thinking about the distractions and like everything that I said about the demons and stuff, and like basically that's kind of tapping into this, like the hidden parts of me, right? Like the dark sides of me, and that is in some ways attributing to fear, attributing to ego, and in some ways that is giving power to everything that I said not to do, right? And so I have to be constantly aware and self-aware so that I'm following my truth and following what I'm supposed to do. And so that was like relief for me in some way to see that and to like kind of understand that about myself, because I felt like there was, I felt it, but I wasn't, I don't know, second guessing myself as I can. So I started walking. Well, I was walking anyway. This is during the walk, so I didn't stop walking. But I was like thinking, hold on, let me light this candle. I'm like getting distracted again. All right. I don't know if you could hear that, but right before my candle went out, my cat is purring and banging on the door. And then I light the candle, and I'm sitting on a little wooden stool, and I literally almost fell out of my chair. I went halfway over to the other side and almost fell. So let me recalibrate and tell you this. So I'm like walking, I'm thinking about everything that I just told you, but then I just started second guessing myself again. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it. And I looked down and I saw, and this is sad morning, a monarch butterfly that had already passed, and it was kind of like softly crumpled like a tissue. And that was a symbol to me. Like immediately I took that as a symbol of disregarding change, like resisting change, like the same thing, same message that I'm getting, where it's like you are like the symbol of change to me oftentimes is a monarch butterfly, and I think symbolically that's like stated for a lot of people too, right? And yet you're not emulating it. You are not, it's like you've already changed and yet you're acting the same. You say you want to change and yet you do the opposite. Like you remain the same. So what is it? And so I was like, okay, committed, fine. I'll go home, record the video. I got it. And as I kept walking, I look up and I see one of my favorite cars. It's one of my favorite cars. Love this car so much. It stood out to me, and I was like, don't look, because as soon as I looked up and glanced at it, I had this feeling that someone was looking at me, and I was like, don't look, because I don't want them to think I'm staring, whatever. But like I couldn't see inside the car. It was literally split second. The windows are completely blacked out, and I don't know, I was just like, what are the odds, that someone's like even like in there looking? I thought I was being paranoid, and I talked about that in my last video about like this just repetition of like second guessing. Like, just don't stop second guessing yourself. If you feel the message, like believe it, believe internally, follow your intuition, right? So on and so forth for everything, like not just spiritually, but you can see through this example of how disruptive that can be to even your well-being when you second guess the spiritual aspects of things, or your spiritual nature, your spiritual truths. How does that inflict disruption and pain, potential pain, on your intuitive nature for life, like your like physiological responses of like fight and flight. Like that also plays into sometimes tapping into the energies of everyone else around you. Like all of that. You see how it can like cloud your judgment. And just like that, there's a weak point. You've created a weak point for yourself. Kind of like, it kind of reminds me of the tides. Like that's what they showed me when I said that, is like when you look at the surface of the sand, and the sand draining into the ocean, and how that creates a riptide. It's like creating a riptide, a dangerous element to it. And so anyway, I kept walking, and then the car ends up pulling out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I swear, like, this was like a little bit later, so I was like, I knew someone was in there. I knew they were looking at me. They're gonna come after me. Not come after, I didn't feel like I was in danger. Honestly, it never felt like I was in danger, but I had that feeling like someone wanted to come talk to me. And so they pulled out and they went the other way. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm making it up, I guess. And then turns out they looped around the block and came up to me. Sure enough, pulled the window down. And I was, even when they're pulling up and slowing down, I was like, maybe they're lost, right? Like maybe they're lost. They're looking for wherever, and they're going to ask me because I look like you can confront me. And so, no, they were just like, yeah, I couldn't help but come talk to you, blah, blah, blah. Like all this stuff that guys say when they're hitting on you, right? And he was asking me out for a drink. And I was like, I don't drink. He's like, well, a little red wine, like kind of like that kind of stuff. And I was just thinking, like, even when he said it, I'm like, wow, I really have changed, because I used to drink, like in my 20s, I used to drink, and I was actually having this discussion Monday morning before I even recorded, I think, or sometime, yeah, it must have been before I recorded. Or maybe it was Sunday. It was like Sunday or Monday, and I was talking to one of my friends about smoking and drinking. And no, it was Monday, because yeah. So I don't know. I'm getting my days mixed up now with all of this going on. Maybe it was after. I have no idea. Okay, forget I even said that. But anyway, I was having this conversation. And I was thinking to myself, like how different I am now. Like, wow, I really don't like even drink anymore or whatever. I wouldn't even consider like going out with this guy. And so, long story short, I just continued on to my walk. He was a very friendly guy. But I thought that was so interesting because, again, that was like another distraction, and it was like a minor temptation, right? Like, he seemed like a really pleasant guy. He obviously has the same taste as me with like cars, Something very interesting about him, he had blue eyes, but I don't think that they were real. They look like contacts. They're just these like brilliant, bright blue eyes. And then this tattoo on his arm, and it was like, I don't even know if it was like a snake. It was like chunky, like really chunky, like swirls. But then it had like little like balls inside, like kind of like suckers. Like, so it could, I don't think that it was a, like a octopus. It was like a serpent, like a simplistic version of a serpent, and it was like wrapped around his arm. And I thought that was so interesting. Like this, like kind of like that kind of print, like that. I don't know, but that like really caught my attention, and I was just while he was talking to me, I'm like, what does this mean? And so I came back, and I'm thinking to myself, that's like such repetition. It's like distraction after distraction, and in between like strong messages of being like, hey, pay attention to your path, your journey. And so I got home, I sat down, I started recording the video. Oh my goodness. I recorded it from start to end. I don't even remember what I said in that video. Maybe I'll tap into it just like I tapped into the other one now that I'm talking about it. But it was like, you know those videos, if you've watched before, where my birds are flying everywhere, they're chewing on everything. They're on the camera. I'm like showing them in the camera because they won't stop, and so I'm just trying to get them to calm down. They're screaming at me because I'm putting my arm near them. There were just like random distractions around the house, you know, that are bothering me, like the candle, then the balloons. That wasn't happening then. It was like minor things like that though. And then like my dog busted down the door because I left it cracked, so he pushed it open. Then my other dogs came in, and then the cat was in here. It was just a lot. And I persevered. So I thought for a while, I was like, I'm just gonna go ahead and post it. And then I was like, okay, well, the least I could do probably is go through and edit out some of those distractions. And at that point, like, I left all the doors open to this room. And so it was like extra loud with the birds and everything. But I'm just not going to do that to you guys. I feel like today's a really important day too. Wednesday, October 19th. Just seems like a very special day. Very pleasant day. And as I say that, I look, and the railing outside has illuminated the stair railing. It looks like so bright. So Adam and Eve. Finally into Adam and Eve. And it's like, well, why are you so shy to talk about it? Because I had this vision, and I think honestly it's like, oh, I wonder what people are going to think about me when I say this. But bear with me, please. And if you're not, it is what it is, right? So when I was a baby, I had this vision, and I was walking through a stream. And at first I wasn't even aware that I was even walking through water, because it was so clear. It just looked like the ground, like it looked like pebbles. And the vibrancy of everything around me was just unmatched. You could never imagine, like, there's no way we could ever create something so brilliant and crystal clear as the colors and the vividness of this dream. And it truly felt like paradise. Heaven on earth. Heaven on earth. We'll say that. We'll say heaven on earth. It's like the projections of all souls with our limited ability to project of what heaven, like, it's like heaven realized, what that could mean, because it's so grand that it's something beyond our own, like our own imaginations, even in our most purest form, as individuals. Not as united souls, but as individuals. To create heaven on earth would be very similar to this. And it would be in tandem, like that would be in tandem with God. And it was this feeling of abundance. It's like there was a feeling I could get where there was this still different but same, like there's this paradise that exists where all of creation exists. Creation in the sense of nature, not of God's creation of mankind, but of nature. It's like, again, working in tandem with God created nature. Like our vision mixed with God's vision and permission to create this paradise where all animals and life exists there, life form of the nature side. And then where I was is this other place where nature still existed. It's like a continuum. It just never ends. For it's infinity, it's eternity. And it just keeps going and going and going. But this is where humans, the souls incarnated into human beings, could create our heaven on earth. And it was so beautiful. And again, it's this feeling of giving and giving and giving with abundance, right? There's no taking, because taking is that perception that you were lacking something and you needed something else, or you wanted something else. There's no perception of being without. It's just always that feeling of gifting, this feeling of gifting and content, pure contentment. And as I'm walking through this water, I see fish, these brilliant fish, yellow, blues, like, I don't, just colors like turquoise, I don't know, just vibrant colors, and they just go across the stream. And that's when I like really pay attention, and I look, and they're creating ripples, right? They're creating ripples of where the current is going. And I look, and my feet are creating ripples, and I start running. So I'm like, this is amazing. I had no idea. It was so gorgeous. It was so beautiful. And I had this download. Like, nothing was speaking to me. It was like this information download, this knowing, this thought, I guess, that was implanted into my being that I'm Eve. And I was like, wow, what does this mean? What does this mean? And it was like, they were basically saying, like, you will know more in depth later in life. You will understand later in life. So what does that mean now that it's later in life? Well, I believe that the story of Adam and Eve is a story that exists within all of us, within the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We are all originated from Adam and Eve's story, that story. When God created, this is all working in his vision. So just as I've said at the beginning, that darkness will never be without light reverberating off of it. There will never be, this is, and we don't need this now. It is true that this happened, this occurred so that we aren't naive, we inhibit the power within us as human beings in this temporary state to create, to destroy, and to re-envision and reconnect, much like a God would, like our God would, like Creator, because we are creative beings. And we have the power in us, the free will, to choose between light and denial and darkness, much like God. And in our naivety, we will choose darkness. In our, not all the time, but like, that is why people choose darkness. It's because they're naive, they're unhealed, they're immature, their souls are immature. And basically, God created it. When I see the soul, it works in tandem with God. It's like feminine, masculine, God. That is the Trinity, the Holy Trinity, the three, right there. You cannot unite unless you are, and it is Supreme Being, God, creator, that highest light source, whatever you want to identify it as. It's God, right? And so basically what God did is he created the split, which I've talked about in other videos, so you can look where you can kind of interconnect it, interweave all of those videos, so it makes a little better sense if this is not making sense to you. But he created this perception of the masculine and the feminine, right? The perception of being split, of being separate. And while you are a unique being, you are a unique soul, and everyone else is unique, and you have your own imprint, we do all work in tandem together. And there's a special third, it's like a third being. Like you're a third being when you connect with and you not just connect, but you raise up. Like you go to this other dimension, this other place. Not even just it's not a dimension. It's like this other, it's like, you know, when the mitochondria, what is it, where they like connect? It's like that. It's connecting, and it creates like a baby, right? Like a sperm and an egg, and it creates a human being. Like it's a separate, you take two separate and it creates one. And that's the real situation there. That's the real story there. And this is going to sound, this is like more of just like, I'm kind of listing things off in my head about Adam and Eve, so we'll see. But I just want to tell you what's relevant, and just kind of go from there. So the closer you are to union, the more difficult it becomes, or challenging it becomes in your life, because you will be met with opposition. You will be met with some trying times and trying situations or people, whatever. Because demons do not want that to happen. They want you to go off course. They want you to get distracted. They want you to do things that are unholy so that you don't unite with your divine counterpart. And they will do anything they can, and they will work through people who are willingly evil and excitably evil and all the things in between, and people who are just kind of lost in the world, right? Who are looking for, you know, a savior, and then they end up in the hands of a predator. They will work through any avenue that they can in order to separate you from your divine counterpart. And that's not for you to like cling on to whoever your counterpart is, because that is not the way of connectedness, right? It's through evolving. It's through freedom, true freedom, universal freedom, and freedom to them to choose, right? God gave, it's emulating God within you, your own life, and within your connection with your divine counterpart. It's saying, and especially the feminine is extremely susceptible to this, because she's the one who becomes aware first, right? She's the one who knows this first. She's the one with the knowledge, because she will have, she becomes aware, and she will have temptations constantly thrown at her to control the situation, to be unhealed, to unravel the healing that has happened in her incarnations. All of this. And she has to stay true to her divine nature, right? God gave the free will to choose. You can be evil if you want. You can deny me if you want. But I will never forsake you. I will unconditionally love you. But I will not acknowledge if you are only going halfway. Your intentions have to be pure. Your intentions have to be true. Your intentions have to be righteous and sincere, right? Those are the things that she has to embody. And in that, by nature, by energetic nature, and even the cyclical nature of things and going to the next phase, it always and will forever, you have to have that faith that it will transform. It will transform in the way that it's supposed to transform. And this is also teaching us as souls the greater story of God himself. Like I believe that there are multiple supreme beings, and in order to get to that throne of the kingdom that we cannot even perceive, we all have to unite. All the souls have to unite as soulmates, and then from soulmates you are evolved, and you earned your right. You have become healed, and you are entrusted with some other deeper knowledge, that these really powerful beings are. You know, you can't sit at the big kid table, the adult table, when you're still a little kid. But eventually you'll learn, right? As a whole. And we do this on individual levels as well. Spiritually, we do that on individual levels. And that kind of brings me back to the archangels, of how like they're able to perceive us just as who we truly are, like as energy, right? And the way that it's showing me is like little dots. We're just little dots, right? And the archangels are able to, like, they understand the journey of us. They were there since the beginning, right? Like, archangels were there prior to mankind being created. They were there before that. And so the fallen angels happen. Archangels who decided to become demons, and God granted, this is what I see, God granted the ability to say, okay, well, you know what, this is all going on, all right, but of course he knew deep down, like he's obviously, like I've taught this analogy I've seen where it's like kids acting up, but you're an adult, you've experienced it, you know what they're doing, you can see that mischievous look in their eyes, and you know they think that they're hiding the candy and they're lying to your face like they didn't eat it, but their whole face is smothered with chocolate, and it's like, oh really, you didn't? Okay. Like that's how God is towards all that he has created. Like you cannot deceive him. It's like silly to think that you can. It's silly to think that like he cannot see through and through who you are and what your intentions truly are, right? So these archangels became demons, and he's like, all right, well, you know, we'll see what happens here. I guess I don't really know, but he helped. Look, the archangels assisted God in like pulling energies from Earth, which is where Satan, this is Satan's galaxy, Satan's dimensions, and similar dimensions close to this. So God had archangels reach down and communicate with the fallen angels here. So all the demons, and formed Adam and Eve. He formed Adam and Eve in purity, like not impure, but in God's purity. And Adam and Eve created, because they were in part privy to earth and all of this, and free will, that was created with sin. They were created with darkness, some darkness in there. Or not all dark, but like the potential for darkness, which means darkness exists, the choice of darkness. Am I making sense? I can see it in my head, like I'm seeing the story in my head. But I feel like sometimes I don't say everything that I'm seeing. So I don't know, there's something else. I'm kind of being drawn like to look down. They're saying divine order. Maybe that's like a message for you guys of like taking your power back, things in divine order, clairvoyance, hello from heaven, clairsentience. I didn't even read these. I was looking at the names. So, yeah, I mean, I would say definitely that there's some major significance there of kind of reaffirming the things that I have said, and also to say, like, you have nothing to be concerned about. You have nothing to worry about with your journey. Everything kind of unfolds in the way that it should. But it's when you come to that awareness of whatever information it is, how do you take the reins in that? You have every authority to do so. But it's like, you can choose whatever you want, but do you want to choose a higher authority to kind of guide you, right? Like that guidance. Do you want to take that guidance? What path do you want to choose, right? And it doesn't always have to be you. It's also a separate message, you know. I think there's a lot of misinterpretation or misspeak, or even like that's kind of a lie, a secret lie in all of this, where it's just you in this. You're responsible for everything. You have to work on yourself. Like, you can do this. Like, you have the power to do anything. Like, that's true. That is very true. But at the same time, you are never alone, right? You are never alone. You are never, never, never going to go through this without your angels, and that the history of who your incarnations, like all of this carries in you. And you can ask for help from God. You can ask for comfort. You can seek that out through the light. You don't have to feel like you're it's that feeling of overwhelm, right? Like sometimes I'm guilty of this sometimes, where like I'll start feeling like so stressed out or so overwhelmed about something, and it's like, what am I like? Then it'll kind of hit me finally, where I'm like, you know, I could just like, why am I worried about this? I can give my worries to God. Like, I can be like, I can pray about it. I can go like find inner peace through that. Like, it's not inner peace of just self. It's not self. It's not just me. Like I said from the beginning, it's like your divine feminine, divine masculine, and God. It's the three of you. It's not just you. It's not just the two of you. It's the three of you. Which also brings me to something else before I thought I was going to end this, and this actually segued perfectly into what I was actually truly, that vision that I told you about, that was one part of what I was shy to share. There's something else too. So it's the story about meeting your soulmate in the higher connections, like if it's potentially a romantic connection, and what that feels like, right? What happens psychically, what happens on an energetic level between you two. And what happens is a repeat of the story of Adam and Eve. So you go through life, you're just doing everything you want to do, acting like a crazy little kid or whatever, you know, assuming you're meeting later in life. But it doesn't really matter, because even as a kid, I mean, it depends on, okay, here's the thing, it depends on every situation. So maybe I'm oversimplifying it in this way, but essentially this is what occurs. And this actually occurs in friendships or like connections that are not romantic, but there's different feelings associated with. When you're closer to closer to connection in a romantic sense, this is essentially what happens. So take what I say and then apply it how it's relevant to like those other situations too, okay? So basically, you're living your life, you're doing your own thing. You may say you're an outgoing person, whatever you want to identify her as, it doesn't matter. But when you meet your counterpart, okay, and during this whole time of separation, you're aware of them on a spiritual level, right? On some sort of telepathic level, you're constantly communicating with them, you're constantly with them, because obviously this projection of reality is all that this is. It's a projection, right? And so energetically, you're already united. Energetically, you're already connected. Energetically, you're already perceiving what they can perceive on some way. Telepathically, that's what you're doing. You're kind of like viewing their projections into the world. What they feel, what they see, what they experience, all of that. And so but then you're also inundated with the ego. You're inundated with people's egos. You're inundated with this truth, the earthly truth. What you see is transformed into what your reality is, right? Even as babies, the way that they can visually see and experience life changes the older you get, right? And you know that even with the way that people talk to you, or the way that you even view the world, your projections of reality shift, and you can look at something one way and someone can look at it and see it completely different, right? And so you start viewing the world in an even more limited capacity than you had been when you first are incarnated here as a baby. And so you start to forget, or you start to deny, or you start to just ignore. Like, it does not bring much value to you, right? And that's part of learning the lessons here. That's part of experiencing life here. That's part of your journey, right? That's very important that this happens to us on a spiritual journeys level. That way we exhibit free will, like we're aware of the free will, right? Otherwise we would just do something we would conduct ourselves completely different if we had not forgotten who we are on that spiritual level, which again, there's only so much we can even perceive as a human being, even as the most enlightened being here on earth. There's still a limitation to that, even though it does widen the scope of your awareness. So you meet your soulmate, and as soon as you meet them, what happens is your guides and you reconnect, and you discuss your promises that you've made, pre-birth promises. for each other and for your journey. You go over all of that, and you have it's kind of like a Rolodex of all your past lives. It's like flying through all of your past lives. You can see all of it. And so it's a remembrance on a soul level of your origins. So it goes from the beginning of time to now, or actually from now to the beginning of time. And then you are repeated of that choice. And this happens on levels. It happens all at once simultaneously, but it's on levels. And so levels of awareness, of the soul's awareness. If that makes sense. I mean, I know it makes sense, but I'm just... Anyway. So... then you kind of... it's kind of like discussing or like remembering or deciding the free will. Like, yeah, I have free will. These are my promises. I hereby declare that I'm going to stick to these promises. It's like a wedding vows, right? Like, I promise to this and this and this. That is what happens on an energetic level between you and your soulmate. I promise that I will carry through on these pre-birth things that we've decided on, so on and so forth. And then another thing that happens is you see through them in this life. You see everything about them. You remember everything that you've projected from their projections, right? Like, you can see every single nook and cranny of who they are and all the things that they thought that they could hide from anyone, that they would just take to the grave, or that they even forgot about. That's like cringy. You see that. And you love that because you love them unconditionally. Again, it's an emulation of God. It's a simulation within you and your spirit of God, of being able to perceive everything and yet love unconditionally, irregardless of what that is. And just as you realize that about them, they're doing the same thing to you. And with that knowledge brings the feeling of shame, of guilt, of shyness, of wanting to hide, of wanting to put a mask on, because that is an extraordinarily vulnerable place to be. In a human being sense, that is where that innocence, that true innocence, gets corrupted. It gets corrupted because it feels like it's dark. It feels like it's supposed to be something shameful. And that, again, is the representation of Adam and Eve within you. It's a representation of what happened at the origins of time, of creating Adam and Eve, and how that is repeated again through you when you meet your soulmate. And so that has to become unraveled once again. That's where that separation happens. A lot of people call runner and chaser, twin flame journey. All of this is because whether it happens in this lifetime or not, you have to unravel the masking again and understand that truth in you and in them, and not just... It's unconditional love without conditions, without the conditions of time to get back together, what you need from them, what you desire from them, what you want for yourself, like when it comes to a relationship with them, like, because there's that pull towards them, right? Because now you know, right? And that's also kind of a representation too of the whole story of like demons, of feeling that separation, not wanting the separation. So it turned them dark, it turned them bitter, it turned them angry, right? So it's not falling into those traps that the demons felt as well. Because God knew at the beginning that would happen. He's been through it. That's what I feel, is he's been through it. He is a representation of what he experienced. Like, that's why he had Jesus, right? It's like, I will never ask you to go through the same things that I wouldn't go through and that I haven't gone through myself. And that includes things on a grander scale. So that's what I have to say. I'm going to pull 2 more cards. The things that were on top of the deck. So we have Wise One, grow within your current situation, prosperity, Archangel Ariel. Your material needs are provided as you follow your intuition and manifest your dreams into reality. Again, with this constant repetition for me of a crow and an owl. Constantly. It's always everywhere. And what I feel, okay, when I really tap into that, what do I feel for this and how this translates to you as well is what you desire. This doesn't even have to be a material thing, but it's like the tangible things, the things you can touch and feel and experience and witness. That is taken care of for you. It is coming to you. It is being provided to you as long as you follow your inner guidance, right? It's just rhetoric when you just start spiritually nincompoops. I'm talking about myself, not just you. Well, not you at all. But I'm just thinking, like, with me, I'm like, they're like, you want to change? I'm thinking of a sad little butterfly. Hopefully it was its time. I'm sure it's time to go. But anyway, it's like I'm being a nincompoop because I know that I have to follow that guidance, and yet I'm not, right? Like I wasn't. I'm like resisting, which is not honoring my truth. It's not honoring my journey. It's not honoring myself. I have to constantly be self-aware and honest, and it's to the point that it's like sometimes it's like that blinder. Like I didn't even I had a blinder on that I wasn't being fully open and honest with myself, right? And the Wise One, and how we have this constant repetition, how what I see for this is, again, speaking about myself, it's like I've been through so much, like it's just so much pain in my life, so much difficulty, so much strife that I don't even talk about at all. It's just from the beginning of birth. Like prior to birth, I was just a pain. It was very stressful. And I persevered, and I continuously persevere. And in my personal life, a lot of people I've heard through third parties, and I've heard personally, so this is where I get this information from, that a lot of people like to glamorize my life. They like to really see me as just whatever fabrication in their mind, like whatever kind of perfect life they think that I lead, right? Without understanding how much pain it took and growth it took to even get me to where I am. And so this kind of showing here where it's like, yeah, I see this journey of the crow and like collecting these little seeds for her cloak, right? And like the feathers that she's gathered on her journey, the graying of her hair, the age in her, and this wisdom that is carried through all of this, and the darkness, right? The owls hunt in the evening, and so it's like you have gone through darkness. You have gone through the wisdom, like listening to the messengers and collecting the messages in order to cultivate who you are, to care for who you are. With the cloaking, it's keeping her secure, it's keeping her safe, it's keeping her warm, it's keeping her protected. And it's so powerful. Like it's a very powerful position to be in psychically. It's a powerful position to be in your divinity, in your journey, to have that wisdom, right? That wisdom of all aspects all windows of who you are. It's not just the naivety or the innocence. It's the darkness as well. It's the pain as well. The projections of others' darkness onto you, and pushing through and persevering and clearing that all off of you and away from you, right? Protecting your aura, protecting your bubble, protecting your divinity, protecting your journey, and persevering and prospering. Not just persevering, but prospering, right? It gets to the point, and I can even look at different benchmarks in my life, little hallmarks in my life of prosperity, right? It's like persevere. There's the little bench that I can sit on and rest of prosperity. Persevere and persevere, prosper, right? It's a continuation of that, and it's not alone. You are not alone on this journey. You've never been alone on this journey. It may have been perceived as that way at some points, but in truth, you've never been alone. You have been divinely guided. There was a purpose for every interaction that you've had. There is a purpose for every thought that you've had. There is a reason for every experience that you've gone through. Every single thing. And it's so important that you recognize that. And it's so important that you really, like, sorry if you thought I called you a nincompoop, because you are not. The reason I bring that up again is because I'm thinking, like, to listen to me and my story and to see, like, I'm going through this. It's not just that I've gone through this. I'm going through this as well. I am tilling my garden and paying attention to whether I over-till it or not. I want to keep those gates open. I want to give everyone in the world the skeleton keys to my garden, my victory garden. I want to open that path of the labyrinth, right? I want to do that, and it is genuinely in the form of unconditional love, not just for myself, but for others, and not just for my divine counterpart. It's literally for everybody, because to feel the way that I have felt in these moments of clarity is so peaceful, is so just transcendent. You would never want anyone to ever experience the tension that is perceived in life, oftentimes in difficult moments, right? That is the goal, and that is what we have to maintain. That is the vision that we have to maintain. So that's what I have to say here to you guys. And yeah, I feel I'll pull one more. This is the final. So, Archangel Michael, you are safe. I am protecting you against lower energies and guiding you, your loved ones, and home. Oh, guarding you. I'm guarding you, your loved ones, in your home. You see him on this path here, which actually brings me to the dream I had. And I looked up and it said 1441, which was, the number in my dream was 141. And that's the time I also woke up, as 141. And to briefly say this, because there's some relevancy here, and I won't get into too much detail, but I had the dream of this path. It's like a rainbow path. There's probably, it's like this divine path. It's like rainbows and like but it's like glass, you know, like crystal or platinum, like platinum, but the reflections cause the colors. And I talked about soul tracking and how there's like different dimensions and how they're interconnected. and how there's darker entities that they follow the path. They follow the rainbows. They follow the light of the path beneath it. They can't ever get onto the path. And how you can, the guardians basically of these different dimensions or different galaxies, how can we as elevated beings of super aware, how can we work in tandem with the angels to guide and guard these entities, you know, like lost souls, fallen souls, all of that, like the spirits that cross over and work for darker entities. How can we lovingly guide them and support them back onto this path? Like some sort of, like, I'm hearing the word like visionary, like how do we envision that? Because just as you could do this here, like in our sleep, like how can we travel and protect in our dreams as well? Like how, when we're connected, we're closely connected to the spiritual realms, more so than we are here. How do we fight against the darkness then too? You know, taking a more proactive role rather than an observant role. How do we do that? Or how do I do that? So that's connected somehow. Another continuum of this video, who knows, but that's what I have for you guys. Bye.